what I know is from our talents and culture department that they put a particular emphasis on also on wording in text that they shoot out, like job ads or in general for the web pages we put out. And there I learned about a tool. It's called a gender decoder, that analyzes a text and put emphasis on, okay, this word is more male or this is more female, to create to remove the bias when it comes to our language, when it comes to job ads. I will post the link also in a couple of seconds in the chat. And one story I'm aware of when it comes to diversity inside Trivago is, I think Matthias mentioned the position of a talent lead a couple of minutes ago. And what is a talent lead? A talent lead is a kind of internal mentor inside Trivago that has nothing to do with your role or with your job. So this person is not working in your team, not working in your department, but maybe in a completely different area. This kind of mentor has then he or she has let's say no stake in your work or anything like this, and can present an unbiased opinion and a different perspective, which is really nice. But also I'm aware of that in this case a few women are pairing up with more senior women to learn about and to be also to how to run inside of the organization, and how they can boost together the whole topic, to also to be not kind of afraid or anything like this. Yeah. So this is, I think, a really nice thing that people pair up and talk about this. And also for the International Women Day that was at the beginning of March, we had a huge panel and an all hands meeting inside the organization where we talk explicitly about the issues that are around diversity, not only in tech, but of course also for tech. That's it from my side. Linus, sorry, what was your next question?
I guess you actually answered it, because I wanted to know about internally what you're doing and also externally. So I think you answered it. But I guess, like, with these issues, I guess, maybe the thing would be, how would you measure whether you're doing good, like in terms of the impact? So do you do some data collection on how much impact you're having, and how do you even measure that? Or is it just like something that you just keep in a conversation?
You mean now measuring our activities when it comes to improving diversity?
Yeah. So what is the metric of understanding how good or bad you're doing as a company about that?
That is a really good question. So there I don't have that much detail. What I know is that, as I said, we are generating and we are putting a lot of effort in the kind of internal diversity reports, and there are a couple of statistics. As I said, how many women, for example, are in leadership positions, work in tech, these kind of data. I'm not sure if this is the major metric, yeah, because diversity is I think a very big topic, and also focusing on more than women, morely on people in underrepresented groups. So that's the reason why I don't know what is the key metric here. But what I know is that every action we do, we do not check next week if it having a great outcome, because a whole culture shift and moving in the same direction is I mean, it takes time, right?
Yeah. So maybe like, oh, okay. Thank you very much for that one. And I would just like to know, like, something, kind of a follow-up question. It's about culture. Do you think that, culture can be something that changes from when a company is very small and when it's huge. So is culture scalable?
Matthias, do you want to give it a shot? Or Luca?
So maybe difficult topic,
Matthias.
I guess. There we go. Is it scalable? Like, does it need to scale? Like, I think if you look at culture as something that you want to scale, I guess then maybe the question is already a problem. So I think one thing that we do is we try to be open-minded, and we try to ask people if they feel represented within and outside of the company. So we have those questionnaires, a weekly questionnaire, to see what the kind of current mood inside of the company is, if people feel understood, if they feel understood by their responsibility lead, if they think that they have enough say in how the company is doing, what the next steps are, and also outside of the company. So actually we have an entire page on diversity and inclusion. I guess I don't want to say everything that is on that page, but just two programs that we joined lately was the Valuable 500, which is some kind of campaign to get 500 bigger companies behind the project of adding people with disabilities to your business. So being fair and being inclusive there. Same is with the other project, Charta der Vielfalt, which is a project by the European Union about diversity. So it's something that we put in a lot of thought. Now the question is, what is the perfect metric? There's this saying that if your metric becomes the only thing that you care about, then yeah, the metric is useless, because yeah, it might not be just one number that you should be looking at and just saying, oh, this number is going up. I don't know. If you say the number of women is going up in the company, for example, what does it tell you? Like, what are those people doing in the company? Do they feel welcome? Do they feel like they can contribute something meaningful? Do they have the same equal chances to have more senior roles, manager roles, whatsoever? What's the chance of them becoming a C-role executive, for example? And this is very hard to put into one single number or even 10 numbers. So I think the main point is, how do you think about diversity? Do you even acknowledge that there is a problem right now that we as an industry have to fix? And what would it be that those people, like actually asking them what is missing and how we can best support them? Because the moment you come up with your own conclusions and you say, oh, we just hired, I don't know, a quota of 20 or 30% from the industry has to be female or has to have disabilities, then I guess you're missing the point here, because you're already adding your own bias. So probably it's better to just ask them and try to be supportive and see where they are and where they stick around, and if they feel encouraged to reach out to us, for example. Lots of companies have diversity programs that are absolutely useless, because those are just a couple of privileged people talking about a couple of privileged problems, and then the people that are actually being talked about are not in the room, and that's counterproductive. So you kind of want to get the right people in the room, and for that you want them to be encouraged to reach out to you and to say openly and expose themselves and saying that they have a problem. It's a very, very, very deep topic. I don't know if we should go into a lot more detail here. Also, just acknowledging the fact that there are 5 males on stage right now already shows that maybe we are not the most inclusive group to talk about that topic in general. But I just want to leave you with one link about our diversity programs. They won't be perfect, and there's still a lot to challenge. And I guess that's the same for many other topics, but at least we try to hear people out and try to get their feedback and try to improve.
I want only to add one thing. I know I was speaking with other departments inside Trivago. The point of metrics in general are complicated because you can work for the metrics instead of working for the value that you are looking to establish. And for diversity, we try to not get metrics in terms of achievement. So it's just a checkbox that we want. Oh, now we are diverse, or okay, we hit the quota or things like that. So this is not the goal. We're trying more to have, as culturally topics. So avoiding biases during the hiring process and things like that. So it's more in this direction. I also know for a fact that we are, let's say, monitoring somehow as a metric. We are collecting data, but we don't have a specific metrics. But we're collecting data, and one important data is ensuring that everyone has the possibility to at least apply for leadership position or to specific position. This is the first step that I know that we are looking at least for ensure a diverse environment, and then try to remove bias whenever it's possible.
Okay, so everyone that is a listener right now, keep in mind that you can also become a speaker by just applying to being a speaker, so to say. We had a lot of interesting questions from people from the audience, so thanks everyone that asked a question already. In the meantime, I guess we can go over to the next question on the list, and that's a question to Andy. So watch out, it's about who decides if you're using technology A or B?
Oh, this is difficult. So inside Trivago, every team is, since a long time, able to choose their own stack, takes their own decisions. This has advantages, but also disadvantages, because so one advantage is most of the teams are, let's say, free to choose their technologies, and can move really quickly by this, and also use the right tool for the job. The disadvantage is that we also see from time to time is that we have nearly every database that is out there somewhere in production, and especially when it comes to more unification or moving into the same platform or deployment processes or reinventing the wheel by solving problems. This is a huge, let's say, disadvantage. So maybe a practical example is deployment processes, right? A proper deployment process can deploy your current version, but also can do a rollback, and maybe you can do blue-green deployments, having two versions inside your production, or maybe you have deployments where you have traffic splitting, some etc. So you can spend a lot of time on the proper deployment process. And when it comes to every team decides on their own technology, this is leading to, at some point, that every team is solving the same problems, right? So with Jenkins, with Circle CI, with GitHub Actions, with Argo CD, etc., but also for different schedulers. Let it be Kubernetes, let it be Nomad, let it be Mesos, or let it be just a Docker Swarm instance, or maybe just a Go binary on some server. Yeah, so that is a huge disadvantage. However, what we are doing right now, we do not limit the technology choice, but what we do is we encourage everyone to write design documents. What are design documents? Design documents are, so imagine you want to put a new feature into production, or you plan to add a new feature or a new part of infrastructure, or you want to change a part of infrastructure, right? So before you do anything, you open up a document, an empty document, and there you write a couple of headlines like what is the problem I'm aiming to solve, what is the proposed solution, and what are the alternatives considered, right? So by what you do is you sit down a couple of hours, think about your problem, think about your solution, and think about the alternatives, and write it down. And hopefully also you create a diagram, because most of the infrastructures are really complex, to show where does it fit. And by writing it down, you create clarity for yourself. And after some point, we encourage them to share this design document in a so-called design review forum. The design review forum is a meeting that we are running every 2 weeks, and the whole company is invited, right? So you can join, and the idea is that you present your design document to not get a consensus, to not get an approval, but to get feedback to improve your design. So by this we improved a lot of designs and saved a lot of work. For example, not introducing a new database, but using an existing system, because team A or B has solved the issue already, and we lowered then the effort from a project from 6 months to 3 months. And this is a really nice thing to get a little bit alignment, but also to improve the writing skills, and also to improve your thought process about a problem, because it is super hard. It's still hard for me to have a problem, and most of us know the thing. I know how to solve it, but how many alternatives you can think about to solve this problem as well in a different way, right? And then creating creating advantages and disadvantages for these kind of alternatives are really great, and then you decide for one. So that is the kind of I would call it hybrid way on how we on the one hand side let the team decide on what kind of technology they use, but also try to create for more alignment and more knowledge sharing inside the organization. Does this answer the question, Matthias? What do you think?
I'd say so. So in summary, it's not about the technology, it's about the thought process. If you're unsure, you want to write it down, find a solution that maybe fits not only your problem, but maybe a whole set of problems within the company. And if you're unsure, then also reach out to other people and ask them for their feedback. This is how we decide if we're using technology A or B. So I don't know if we want to continue with the question from the chat right now or from Slido. I would say Slido is the official platform. So let's go with that one first. Do you agree, Andy?
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So the next question on the list, it was just upvoted. Do you guys use MLOps to build and deploy your AI models? And how exactly do you guys handle that? MLOps, machine learning operations. It's kind of a new topic at Trivago. So also, I don't know much about it. What I know is that some people are experimenting with it. I don't know exactly if we deploy our models with like a continuous integration or continuous delivery process already. So the idea of MLOps, maybe just as a summary, is traditionally machine learning models were developed by maybe data engineers or data scientists that were trying to solve one specific problem and building one specific immutable machine learning model that would be used for a longer period of time within the company. And it would be treated as some kind of black hole. And now the new approach is that instead of doing this, you want to have the same development process that you have for all your other technologies and for all your other products, meaning that you just acknowledge that you will constantly change that, you will modify it, and the deployment process has to be somewhat automated at least. This is what the MLOps movement planning. And yes, historically we had models at Trivago that were sort of one-off builds, sort of monolithic black holes that were kind of hard to debug and troubleshoot. These days, we try to build smaller models and we try to ship them more often, more continuously, because we learned that machine learning is some kind of also business asset, and you don't want to invest into something and only maybe ship it once and then use it for the rest of your life, but you want to continuously work on it, and it has to be a bit more transparent than it was in the past. So I don't know much about the tooling that we use right now, what kind of tooling is out there, and how we ship those models. But maybe just two things that we did in terms of machine learning or AI at Trivago. The two first projects that we had in mind were kind of obvious. At least the first one was obvious. And that was trying to avoid bias in terms of who our customers are, and trying to come up with different categories for our users based on data input. So historically, you could say a traveler would be either a business traveler or a leisure traveler. And that can work to some extent. But in today's world, where travel becomes very individual, maybe that classification is a bit outdated. And what you want to do is you might want a machine to inform you about what kind of users you have on the platform, on what kind of filters and activity they do on the platform. And for that, we build a machine learning model to help inform that decision. It's not that we take away the ownership from a user and put that into the hands of a machine. It's more about thinking maybe about finding blind spots in the way you address users' needs. And so this machine learning model, we called it user profiling, was more or less just creating a vector of different, let's say, features or interests for a single user. And it would create some kind of classification. And it would say, this is user type A and type B, without really labeling those types of users. But through that, we learned maybe that there are different ways to look at traveling in general these days. So, okay, there might be a leisure traveler, but are they thinking about a one-time, once per year vacation to an island? Or are they more like an active type that is looking for events for weekends? Those are different types of personalities, so to say, and this model helped inform that. Another thing, which maybe is not that obvious, is that you can apply machine learning to the way we model pricing, and you can build a cache that maybe is a bit smarter than just a normal price cache where you store all the information all at once. If you had a classification and you knew, for example, which prices were requested more often than others, you could maybe save yourself a lot of cash by putting only the most vital information into RAM, and the rest would be on cold storage because it's less and less often requested by a user. So this is one way where we applied machine learning that is maybe not that intuitive. This, I guess, was also the first step towards MLOps, where this machine learning model was integrated into one of our core products. And we couldn't go and just build a single model, but it had to be a very adaptive. So it was just included into our entire development and CI/CD process. But I cannot talk about the other models that we are developing currently and what technology we use, because it's not a business secret, but I honestly don't have that much experience in that area.
Yeah, me neither. Sorry for this. We are both not working with these kind of technologies area on our daily basis. So sorry to disappoint you. However, Feel free to tweet us a couple of questions to Trivago_tech, and we can forward those questions to people who work in this area in our company.
So Nathan mentioned, just really quick, Nathan Segers mentioned in the chat that at the University College of Houwist in Kortrijk, Belgium, okay, I might have pronounced it wrong, they teach MLOps practices of deep learning models to bachelor students. I think this is exactly what you should be doing, and this is amazing because, for example, this subject didn't exist even a year ago or 2 years ago. So MLOps is kind of a new thing. And if your university is already teaching the best practices in this area, I guess you're on the right track. So keep that up, I guess. And if for anyone that is interested in that, do check out the link that he posted. Maybe there might be something for you. Looks like they have a semester on an AI engineer curriculum, which I think is crazy, and it's really cool that you have that already.
Anyone is having a
We're
question?
getting old, Andy. We're getting old.
Every time I read, I was reading Belgium in the chat, and then I was so sad that the FOSDEM this year was sadly not cancelled but online. However, I miss the FOSDEM right now, to be fair.
Yeah, me too. FOSDEM online really wasn't the same, but that's a different topic.
Yeah, I mean the running joke is you can get into every room now, right? But without staying in line. But I think
someone mentioned on Hacker News, I miss standing in the rain in front of the fries booth.
Yeah, true.
So
I
cool.
mean, FOSDEM is either super cold, rainy, or I never had a super sunny weekend with shorts. I mean, maybe it is because of February, but sometimes we can get lucky, right?
Although people wore shorts, there were a couple diehard people that just decided that rain was not a reason not to wear shorts. So this also happened, but you know, there's always those people.
So one interesting story is, and maybe a pro tip for your company and for your meetings. So because we are chit-chatting a little bit about FOSDEM and Matthias mentioned Hacker News. So if you next time waiting in your Zoom call, in your video chat, for your peers and colleges to appear, just start a random chat and share your screen and open Hacker News. And just go through the top lists of Hacker News articles. This always starts an interesting discussion in our design review forums, for example, because there we have a rule. We start 5 minutes after the meeting has been scheduled, that everyone has the chance to join. So and I think it's a great thing. So is someone having a question from the audience? Otherwise, we would pick another one. And I think this one would be then from Jan von Tor. Jan von Tor is not here anymore. He was here.
There's one from the chat. And since we are already on the MLOps topic, let's pick this one. How do you guys deploy and build those models nowadays? Right. I don't know.
As I said, I'm not sure if we can answer this right now, but we are happy to forward these kind of questions and maybe try to get another Ask Me Anything session in on Dodge House. How is it pronounced? Dodge House, Doge House? What is the correct pronouncement here?
Doge House.
Okay, maybe we can get a couple of data analysts and data scientists, and maybe people from operations, a couple of site reliability engineers here who work on this with a daily basis. Would this be an option, Aniket? This would be cool. Yes. Okay. Cool. Nice. So if you want to have, if you want to run a question, you have to press the megaphone button in the chat room. So, and then we will pop you up as a speaker and you can ask your question. In the meantime, the next question, what is the current approach and tech stack for monitoring at Trivago? That's a really good question. So I think monitoring wise, we have everything in production. Please correct me if I'm wrong, Matthias. So I know that our network team is using a Zabbix instance. I know we still have an Isinga 2 instance, but I think most of the people are shifting their way of monitoring to a more cloud native stack, like with Prometheus. And the typical cloud native stack parts here, because more and more applications are moving onto containers. I mean, monitoring is a huge field, of course, when it comes to metrics gatherings and logging. I think Matthias is a perfect person to talk about it. Matthias.
Right, someone's calling, so let me hang up for a second. So, monitoring. I think you shouldn't be talking about monitoring actually, because historically we looked at metrics and we looked at logs and we said, oh, let's find the problem in our logs and our metrics. And the moment you move to a distributed system with a lot of microservices in your infrastructure, you will find out that this is almost impossible. It just doesn't scale. It doesn't work. So once we learned that, and I guess we learned that the hard way, just like many other companies too, we moved away from just pure monitoring and logging. Instead, we look at something that is maybe a bit more abstract, and that is observability. So what is observability? The idea is that, yes, you also instrument your services, but with a different intent. You collect metrics and you collect logs, but the main point is that you try to find patterns in your entire microservice architecture, in your entire infrastructure. So across microservices and on the network interface, this on the boundary between two microservices, this is where these days a lot of problems arise. And a lot of problems that you maybe cannot find only through logging and metrics. We, of course, still do that, but it's not our main focus anymore. And so thinking about observability, there are companies like Honeycomb or Lightstep that provide an interface for tracing services or actually tracing requests across your entire request flow. How does it look in practice? Let's say a request comes in and it hits your load balancer. The first thing you do is you assign an ID to this request. And this request will just go through your entire microservice chain, so to say. It will hit a couple services. From the load balancer, for example, it could go to your gateway, which maybe is the interface to your data. So that can be a GraphQL server, for example. And with each hop across the network, you add additional information to this trace. In the end, you will get some kind of almost waterfall diagram, which will show you exactly how much time you spent on each microservice and what other microservices were called from each microservice. And you get a very clear picture where problems arise. How is that possible? Well, let's say you have your load balancer, then you have GraphQL, and then you have a user service. And the user service just returns information on a given user. And let's say the user service takes 5 seconds to respond. Looking at it from the outside, you just see that your service is slow or your request is slow in total. But in reality, it's just a user service that has problems. Now, if you go down one more level and you take it to a more granular level and you say the user service maybe makes a request to a database and that database request is slow, and then you can pinpoint the problems pretty easily with very little effort. once this entire system is in place. But of course, taking a lot of microservices, we run hundreds of microservices in production right now, and trying to instrument every single one of them so that you have this entire chain takes a lot of time. It's not something that you do in a day or two. Most problems arise because you have a huge need for communication across teams. Some people have to put in the work and instrument their services, deploy, and then you get another piece of the puzzle. And in the end, you look at the entire thing like a mosaic. And this is what we are focusing on right now. So we move away a little bit from pure monitoring and we move towards observability. And I hope that answers the question. To Jan, who is not there anymore, but I hope that it's still interesting to someone else as well. Shall we take the next one from the list? What do you say, Andy? Or do you have anything to add?
Nothing to add from my side. I mean, monitoring, observability, metrics, super interesting topic, super complex topic. Really depends. I think there's so much movement in the space right now, and especially with Docker and containers, etc., it's getting more complicated. Yeah. And from then the different models, push model, pull model, etc. So I think we can even talk multiple evenings about this topic alone, right?
Yeah, maybe just to throw out a couple of technologies that we use in that space. For tracing, we use OpenTelemetry and we use Honeycomb. For monitoring, we use Prometheus and InfluxDB. We both have a push and a pull model. That means we fetch metrics from services, but services also push metrics to the metrics database. And for logs, we use the classical stack, the Elk stack, Elasticsearch, Logstash, Kibana, some tried and true technology that we've been using for years, and we don't plan on changing it. For GCP, we use what GCP provides, which is Stackdriver mostly. Another logging alternative, maybe not as sophisticated as Elasticsearch, but requires less maintenance. Yes, Bushra, Honeycomb, super cool. Yeah. We evaluated Lightstep in Honeycomb, and while I cannot go into the details why we chose Honeycomb, in the end, so far we are okay with our decision. Honeycomb is nice when it's a bit more of a professional tool where I would say you have to know exactly what parameters to change in the user interface. But once you kind of tuned it and once you got the hang of it, then it can provide very, very deep insight into your stack, and it's very responsive, surprisingly responsive. Yeah. And Mitor says, Mitor is another employee from Trivago. Hello. Super happy with Honeycomb, especially during debugging incidents. Yeah, that's nice to hear as someone from the performance and monitoring team. So well received, and I give that back to the team. The next question on the list. What are the impressions so far while using Kotlin for server-side backend services? First off, what is the alternative to Kotlin? What did we have before? A mix of Java and PHP. And there was no big problem with Java and PHP. A lot of people that maybe bash on those technologies haven't used them for a while. And I encourage you to try again. So both Java and PHP are very, very solid technologies these days. PHP especially in the last couple of years, it has evolved into some really decent language with types, with proper classes, namespaces, an entire ecosystem around Composer, and Java as well. I think it began with somewhere around Java 9, where they added, I guess, lambdas. And from then on, they just kept adding features that you maybe have learned to love from Kotlin. But eventually we moved more towards the the Kotlin ecosystem for, I guess, a few reasons. First, it was different and familiar. It was a little different than Java. Back in the day, it was actually very different to Java, but it was just running on the same virtual machine, JVM. It was rock stable from the very beginning, and the people from JetBrains, they focused a lot on developer velocity and developer experience. You can see that through the tooling, the IDE support, the documentation. It was all very, very much top notch, and I think that's one of the main advantages of Kotlin. And then they, I guess, also made some really interesting and valuable advances compared to the Java ecosystem back in the day. So when it came to data objects, when it came to nullable types, everything maybe that is now added to Java as well was there in Kotlin years ago. And you could still use all the old Java code, which was definitely an advantage for us as well when we moved over. One challenge that we had was to make the code base, a bit more type safe. So historically, Java code maybe wasn't the most type safe in the sense that you had maybe some null pointers, you had some stuff that maybe wasn't in perfect condition, and then just adding markers to the program and explaining that this part could fail, and this was a critical section in your application that could maybe be null or so, was a challenge. But after doing all this work, from what I heard so far, we are quite happy with the decision. We moved some of our backend services to Kotlin. Everything that is talking to GraphQL in this data stream is written in Kotlin these days. In the backend, everything that is talking to our partners is, as far as I remember, Kotlin already. We call it the partner service. Those are microservices talking to Booking.com, Expedia, and so on. They were rewritten in Kotlin, as far as I remember. Andy, correct me if I'm wrong here. And the other thing is our core price engine is also partially written in Kotlin now. Will we ever move back to Java? It could well be a possibility. Java is getting stronger and stronger, adding more and more functionality, and has the upside of having this huge ecosystem already. And I don't know what will be the future of Kotlin at Trivago, but so far we have no plans of moving away from it, especially now that you can also collaborate with people from the Android team, from the mobile apps team. Kotlin has become a major language in the Android ecosystem as well, with strong backing from Google, so it's probably not going to go away. Yeah. Is there anything else to say?
I don't think so. I don't think so.
Andy, what new technologies are you using that is necessary for every tech company in your opinion? That's a question from Aniket.
Oh, that's a really hard one. So I don't think that any new technology is necessary for a tech company, because I think we can. So I think we can solve nearly every problem with nearly every technology. So lately, today I was seeing a tweet. Someone wrote, "You can do every analysis with SQL if you want." Yeah. So, and yeah, maybe this person is right. I'm not sure. But maybe this is a little bit hard. However, so I think the organization is moving, is maturing a bit. So means I think a lot of people are getting more and more a fan of boring technology to rather than what I call Hacker News driven development. Hacker News driven development is using the latest technology that was yesterday night on the Hacker News top page. I mean, this has advantages and it's super awesome to try out new things with new concepts. But if you really want to run it in production, it's someone has to get up at night and fix all the bugs, or restarts the server or you name it. And let's say with boring technology, you mostly have experience with it. We know the ins and out of the technology. You ask, okay, but if there is one technology that you have to use, what would it be?
It's easy. It's very easy. Rust, of course.
Rust fanboy Matthias, kick it.
I'm just kidding.
It's I don't know, to be fair. I don't know. I think two things is mandatory. It's version control. Yeah, let it be Git, let it be Subversion. I'm even fine with CVS and with deployment pipeline super early on. And even if we all in this room think, hey man, what you're telling me is a standard, I doubt this is by far not standard in most of the companies. So I think that is something so really foundation where I think this is something that every company should adopt, need to adopt. And if you start a new project, really the first thing what you do is I did it lately. I created a Docker container and put the Nginx image just there. So from Nginx Alpine, and then the first thing was what I did is created a deployment pipeline. And then I committed the Nginx image and it was shipped to production. There was no domain on it. However, it was shipped to production and this was my hello world, right? I was seeing the Nginx status page directly in production. And then from there, I created a small Golang application with a hello world, modified the Docker container to serve my Golang application, and committed it, and it went to production immediately, right? And from there, I developed my small application. So I think that is a beautiful thing that most of the companies underestimate, but continuous deployment and continuous delivery is the best thing you can have. And in my opinion, this allows you also to ship on Friday afternoon, right? Even if most of the people want to kick me right now. Matthias, there is one question from Meteor, which is Simon. He's asking a nasty one. What do you think will be the next big thing in tech, even if you don't have to use it?
So first off, it's Meteor instead of Meteor. I think he would appreciate it. And I guess it also is a nice segue from the previous question that we had. Yeah, you're welcome, Meteor. So I'm a huge fan of no-code, the no-code movement, because I think that it empowers more people to build products without having to know how to program. And even I would use it in the future for some projects. There are things like Airtable, which I tried for other projects in the past, together with students or for just private stuff. And it's just crazy how much you can get done these days without writing a single line of code. And this just helps to democratize tech in the future, I hope at least. When would I want to use no code? Well, I guess in the future, I hope people will think of it in the exact opposite way. When would you want to use programming or programming skills? Only if you have to. So no code is nice because someone else is maintaining your infrastructure, but someone else is also maintaining the network logic, the servers, maybe even the website, and you can focus entirely on the product, or even better, focus on the user. So no code is a really nice way to build a prototype and see if your idea flies. What can you build with no code? Well, literally everything. Did you know that, for example, Zalando didn't have a database in the beginning? They had an Excel sheet. So whenever there was an order coming in, someone would have to take it down in an Excel sheet, literally copy pasting it from the email, putting it into an Excel sheet, and that was the way they shipped and the way they scaled in the beginning. You could build something like this without writing a single line of code these days. You take Airtable, you take a landing page that someone else built. You just buy the template, and then you have a shop. Or anything that you can build that is maybe can be modeled as an Excel sheet. Recently, I wrote a blog post about exactly this topic. Your first business should be an Excel sheet. I think it was a bit of a misnomer. It should have been your first side project should be an Excel sheet. And because it turns out that you put in a lot of work into something that you care about, that you want to have solved, and you won't spend a single more minute than that you have to on Excel, in Excel. That means that, yeah, probably someone else also doesn't want to spend the time, so it's valuable to them. That means just take this sheet, create a database or create a website from it and make it a product. And then see if you even have to add some code to it. So maybe in summary, I'm a huge fan of no-code technology and the no-code movement. And if you want to learn more about how to build a side project with that, Mitor just posted a link to my blog post. So thank you very much for that. And now let's move on to the next question from Wolfgang. I hope it wasn't already answered, but coming back to Trivago, are you allowed to do side project? If yes, is it somehow supported? Nice question. Yes, and it is even encouraged because we have one core value, which is entrepreneurial passion. We want people to think as entrepreneurs. And what that means is you want to have something that is customer facing. You want to have actual people, actual humans that use your software. You don't want to be detached from the rest. Even if you are a backend engineer, like in my case, it can sometimes be very educational to learn that it's very, very hard to earn money on the internet these days. And then you learn to appreciate like having a safe harbor like Trivago that is kind of a unicorn and made it big, but it requires a lot of work, requires a lot of attention, focus on the user, attention to detail. So the two side projects that I tried so far, one is a platform for static analysis tools. It's called analysis-tools.dev. This was literally a list in the beginning, and now we have a couple sponsors and we can grow this platform. It's no profit, so non-profit. That means we're not trying to get rich with that, but the goal is that we provide a real service to developers, and we want to run this platform in a sustainable way. This is working really well, and it's not consuming much of my time. I'm just adding a couple more tools whenever there's a pull request coming in. The rest is automated. The second thing that we've been building during Christmas time was together with Wolfgang and together with Misha. We built Code Prints, which is it's a website where you can order art prints from your GitHub timeline. Let's say you're very active on GitHub. It creates a poster, a framed poster from all your commits that you did over the last couple of years, and you can hang that on your wall. Why would you want to do that? Well, for some people, it can be motivating. Commits are definitely not a way to measure performance, so don't take it the wrong way. But some people might just like to look back and see also sometimes when they didn't work on code, and maybe when they went on vacation and didn't touch the keyboard for a week or two, and or when they finished this big milestone of their side project or whatever. And I'm just looking at my code print right now, and I can see where I had crunch time, where I had time off, where I took a weekend off or whatever. And this is like really inspirational to me. And that's another thing that I built lately. And while I was not building this during work hours, I think it's nice to know that you don't have to be beaten around the bush if you talk about what you did on the weekend or what you did when other people were maybe just watching Netflix all day. So I like this as a nice opportunity just to grow as a developer as well. Andy, tell me about your side projects.
Oh dear. I mean, we can talk about this, a lot of stories like how I work on 3 side project and shipped no one of those. It's super sad, but I think I have the same problem like a lot of people. I maybe I should start with an Excel list and with a landing page. But what I do is I start with picking up the newest hot shit technology and try to learn it. After some time, I'm really disappointed that it's not that hot and not that great, or I don't know how to use it. And at some point, I lose motivation because I was not able to ship something that I use on my own, right? So yeah, that's how it goes. No, but now I did it differently. So I mentioned boring technology. I mentioned continuous delivery a second ago, and I'm working right now on a side project that is a kind of how should I a kind of open source solution to manage your open source projects, but in a professional project context, right? So I think a lot of open source projects have huge potential, and I am doing a lot of analysis on open source lately, and there I did it differently. I used technology that I know. I created an Nginx image, shipped it. That was not an anecdote. This was a real story. And yeah, since then I'm working every hour, run about every day, 1 or 2 hours on it, and I'm making progress, right? So a friend of me reminded me on how to achieve great things or big projects. Just do one baby step after another, and that's what I'm doing. And you know what? I shipped something, and the great thing is I have already, I think after a couple of days, a small prototype that I'm using already for myself, and that is how I keep my motivation up. However, side projects inside Trivago, yes, really good question. So um, on one hand side, we are allowed to also contribute to open source and run side projects on the side. That is not standard. For example, in the US, a lot of companies like Netflix and Google, etc., keep the intellectual property, and there you sign contracts that you are not able or not allowed to run side projects. So that is not the case. Matthias said already that you got encouraged to run side projects, entrepreneurs, etc. But also we have a lot of setups inside Trivago. We often run hackathons where you can try out new things, even new business angles inside Trivago. So there was a time, and I think it's also still possible. And that is my main point why I really love Trivago. In Trivago, you can change everything. That is super great. So you can prepare something, you have an idea, and you do a little bit of research, talk to a little bit of people. And at some point in time, if you really have a case, right, and people like it and the management likes it, it could be that the management is saying, okay, great, do it here, find a couple of people and do it, and you are just responsible for it. Of course, then you have to deliver, then you have to set it up. However, that is a great thing that you can change everything inside Trivago, even if we are a big organization already. I think that's not standard, and that is great. But also on a small level, with hackathons, with learning Fridays, a lot of people do side projects there to either improve their team's work or try out something new. Yeah, so I don't want to talk a lot about my side project. I think we do another Dodge House session about this, just about the pain and motivation, but also the beautiful pieces of running side projects, creating side projects, or anything like this. So if you're interested, just post it in the chat. We are a little bit more than 2 hours in. How is the mood, everyone?
So
Okay.
just so while people collect their thoughts, it's Doge House. D-O, I don't even know, but it's Doge House.
I was asking, how do I pronounce it? Doge House. Okay, got it. I think it's the same like how do you pronounce Kubernetes? Is it kube control? Is it kubectl? what is the correct pronouncement here, right? So I have no clue. I think we should create a YouTube video somehow where we constantly ask the authors of this tool what is the correct pronouncement. I think you can fill weeks with this.
So one thing that is certain, it's GIF, not GIF, right? And the other thing is it's Linux, not Linux, because Linus was a European, so a Finnish person. I don't know, but I guess you mentioned something important. I guess we don't want to stretch it out for too long, so let's take one final question, and then maybe call it a day. What do you say?
Sounds good. Sounds like a plan.
And the last question is from Slido, and Ankia asked, what do you like and not like in your job? Actually, that was not the question. So the question was, what do you not like in your job? Andy.
As you say, as you can see, I'm not prepared. What I don't like at my job.
So maybe I can take this one.
I don't like when people take professional discussions personal. What I really like is to have a professional discussion about which solution we are going to, and after this we close the discussion and we drink a beer together, right? So that is what I don't like. I don't like when people take a different opinion about a solution, about a technology, about a way to go. Which leads to the same result, yeah. Personal. That is what I don't like, and I hate politics. So that is what I don't like, because my motivation is I want to do awesome things with awesome people. Yeah, I think we can reach a lot together, but I don't like ego politics and taking things that are professional personal. That is what I don't like. How's it about you, Matthias?
Good friend of mine once gave me some really great life advice, which is probably wrong, but as a rule of thumb, I guess it worked out really well for me. He said that a good relationship, no matter what kind of relationship, is split into 3 parts. I say this while my girlfriend is coming in, so I have to be careful here. But he said that 1/3 is pretty terrible, 1/3 is pretty average, and 1/3 is pretty amazing. And you are in a good relationship if the amazing part is more amazing than the terrible part is terrible. And you cannot do much about the average stuff. So I think this is the same for every company. And in my book, that's the same for Trivago. So sometimes you have to do things which you might not agree with, or they just have to be done, and it feels a bit like a drag. And sometimes you have the feeling that maybe things are a bit average, because not everything is exciting, and you cannot be super into everything all the time. But then there's this 1/3 which really makes up for the rest, I guess. And that is like the amazing part, and that is when you ship something that is bigger than the parts, or that is like a team effort, and you look back and you say, okay, this was a great achievement, or something that is very unique to the company, where you have a lot of scale, a lot of users, or maybe you reduce the CPU usage across the board by, I don't know, 10 or 20%, which means savings of many, many thousands of euros, even per day. And being able to be part of those achievements is what makes up for the rest, I would say. Of course, that doesn't mean that there's anything really that I hate that much, but of course it's work, right? Let's be honest here. It cannot all be just fun and greenfield projects. Sometimes this legacy database is just falling off and you have to pick it up again. Okay, That's part of the job. But that will be the same for every project, every side project, every personal project. If you want to achieve something, then you have to struggle from time to time. And if you want to struggle with us, by the way, we are hiring. Of course, this was also a hiring pitch. So if you go to, okay, I just realized that I lost the link. I thought I had it in my clipboard, but I guess if you look for Trivago careers, then you will find your way. We try to not hide it on the internet, so it's probably pretty easy to find. Let me find the link again. There you go. Specifically, we are looking for Kotlin developers right now, Android developers. If you have any questions, if you might be a good fit, then don't hesitate to reach out to us either through Trivago or Andy's or my personal account. Like, the DMs are open, or send us an email with your CV, and we try to find a place for you. We can discuss roles. That's also part of our responsibilities. So all good. And if you need interns, yeah, please link them to our open positions, Nathan. That would be nice. I think we do. Depends on what they want to work on and how quickly they can start. But yeah, please send them our way. We'd be happy for everyone. Andy, any final closing words before Elon Musk is literally kicking us off?
No, but it was interesting. So first time I'm using Doge House. Sorry, I will call it Dodge House now. Dodge House. Super interesting. And maybe, Matthias, what do you think? Maybe we are running another session at with maybe a little bit more focused topic. This was very broad. But I had fun, and it's super interesting. Also, this concept of getting people to the stage. And thanks everyone who joined. Thanks everyone who spent a little bit more than 2 hours with us. Super interesting. If you have more questions to us, if you want to reach out in private, please do. Please have a look at the chat. I posted a couple of links there. You can read more stories about culture, backend, frontend, sponsoring, open source, etc. in Trivago at tech@trivago.com. The link is in the chat. If you want to stay up to date what is happening, feel free to follow us at Twitter at Trivago_tech. There we share a lot of things that are going on. And if you want to, if you're having a private question that you may not want to ask in public, feel free to reach out to Matthias or me. I posted both of our Twitter accounts in the chat, and Matthias is maybe sharing our websites or email addresses also in the chat. Feel free to reach out. We are happy to connect you to the respective people if we are not able to answer the questions, or we are happy to answer any kind of question or help. Yeah. Other than that,
yeah. And finally, if you're interested in those topics, then let us know that you like the session on Twitter. So maybe just send a tweet and let us know that this was valuable to you, because then we might come up with new ideas in the future. One thing that I guess we will try for sure is a data engineering or data science focused chat, maybe with 2 other engineers from Trivago in the future. And if you want to be in the loop here, then yeah, please follow us on Twitter, where we will announce those sessions in the future. I said in the future 3 times, so it must mean something, right? In space.
Enjoy your time, enjoy your evening, morning, afternoon, wherever you are right now, and hopefully see you soon. Bye-bye.
Ciao.